UFC 257 is just hours away now. Official weigh-ins are in the books. Everyone has made it in terms of the top lightweights on the card. Some other lightweights had a couple struggles, Farah, but we are here. We are ready to go. Obviously, these two featured bouts atop the card coming up very soon. I'm Mike Bohn, joined by Farah Hannoun here. Farah, it's very exciting. How stoked are you?
Completely stoked. I mean, it's such a massive event. It's good to see the main and co-main. They came in and weighed in early as well. That ramped up the excitement. Obviously, Conor came in at championship weight, and he said it out loud. We know the implications with the main and the co-main. We don't know who's going to fight for what title, but the stakes are big regardless.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that weigh-in. Conor McGregor, the very first, Dustin Poirier just seconds behind him. How do you think they looked on the scale? Like you said, Conor championship weight, Poirier definitely used that 1 pound allowance. We know he's a big boy in there. Anything that you really take away from that? It's kind of unique in the sense that here we are, Friday night Abu Dhabi time, but they're not going to be fighting till like Sunday morning, so a bit longer of a recovery period than they would normally have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Conor, he always likes to come in a championship weight, right? But when he was doing it at featherweight, he didn't necessarily look the healthiest. But now he's talking about his nutrition. He's got a whole team behind him. He knows the question marks around his cardio, right, and stuff. So that's part of the narrative. But I think he's coming here and he's really focused on his health. He's got his McGregor Fast program. He's got his nutritionist. He's got his whole team here. So I think that's been a big focus of his training camp here. And I'm excited to see. I mean, Conor looks super, super confident coming into this one. And yeah, you said Dustin's a big boy. It's okay to get that pound allowance. No need to drain. I think Conor's just trying to make a statement with him wanting to get back into that championship fight. But I thought they both looked really good in the scales.
Yeah, I think so too. And obviously, let's talk about the stakes a little bit here. At the press conference on Thursday, McGregor kind of being a little defiant about the questions around his cardio, saying it's a myth. I think Dustin's team does really feel, though, that the longer this fight goes, the more effective it's going to be, the better his chances are going to be. So is it as simple as that? Do you think if Poirier can make this fight go long, it's really in his favor, and McGregor maybe needs to end it early if he wants to win?
I think based off of what we've seen in past fights, I mean, Dustin seems to have a second gear. We've seen it in so many of his fights. I mean, he lost the first 2 rounds against Dan Hooker, and look at the way he came back. Look how confident he looked in his corner as well. Even the Justin Gaethje fight, he had moments where you felt like the fight was going to turn around, but he has that championship heart in him. He's proved it time and time again. Not to say that Conor doesn't. I mean, he proved it in the Nate rematch, but I think it's just because Dustin is so battle-tested and proven in that regard, and Conor's got so many early finishes. He's put guys away, and especially the first fight back in 2014. So I think that's the narrative we're playing on. It could play out completely different on Saturday, but I think people are just drawing it based on what we've seen in the past. And yeah, I mean, I think with Dustin, it's a matter of not just trying to drag Conor in the latter rounds, but maybe more of the clinch, more of the grappling to actually try to tire Conor out, because I guess it'll depend. We'll see if Conor actually does tire out or not.
Yeah, for sure. And I know there's the whole Khabib angle to this. Like, someone can impress him? I don't think we'll get to the co-main event in a sec. I don't think those guys are technically in the running. I don't think Khabib's going to come back and fight Dan Hooker or Michael Chandler. So I think it really comes down to this main event between Dustin and Conor. Is there anything either of these guys can do, in your opinion, no matter how spectacular, that's going to lure Khabib back? Or do you think we're really just looking at a #1 contender fight here in terms of who will fight maybe a Charles Oliveira, a Justin Gaethje for a potentially vacant title?
I don't know, because the thing is, when do Dustin and Conor not win in spectacular fashion? I mean, Dustin has entertained us with Fight of the Year contenders and incredible wars, and Conor has incredible finishes. When are these guys not impressive, right? So I think, what could they possibly do? I don't know. I mean, Khabib did say last time he was at 254 that it doesn't motivate him. Rematches with either guy doesn't motivate him, because we've known about this fight for such a long time, so I can't see what would change his mind. Now, maybe if the winner of Dustin and Conor fight Oliveira, or the winner of Chandler and Hooker, then maybe, but I don't know if the winner of that fight will necessarily lure Khabib. I know everyone wants to see the McGregor rematch. They're kind of counting Dustin out. I don't know how motivated Khabib would be to rematch Dustin Conor. There's the rivalry, maybe the numbers. I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's lured by these things, but we'll see.
Yeah, and you mentioned counting Dustin out, so here we go, the official picks. I'm going to pick Dustin Poirier. I think he is going to be able to push this fight long, and he's going to maybe get a late finish or win by decision. What say you? Who are you picking to win this fight?
I think I'm leaning McGregor. I could see how Dustin could drag it out in the latter rounds. We are playing on that narrative a lot, I know. But I think McGregor's precision and power might be a little too much, so I'm leaning McGregor.
Very interesting. Well, let's touch a little bit on the co-main event. Obviously, a big fight there too. What are your expectations for Michael Chandler's UFC debut? Do you think it's going to be he's going to be able to rise to the occasion here and show that he belongs in the conversation with these guys once and for all, the top lightweights in the world, or is Dan Hooker kind of going to squash that and maybe set up a narrative that these Bellator guys aren't UFC level or something like that?
Mike is really tough, so I think it's not going to be an easy fight for Dan Hooker. The interesting part for me is that it's 3 rounds. I mean, Dan has showed a tendency, he's been in so many wars that to slow down a little bit in the later rounds, especially that Michael Chandler can wrestle. So even Dan jokingly seemed relieved that it was 3 rounds, not 5. I think he was kind of joking around, but it is interesting that the fact that it's a 3-round fight. I think Chandler, if he wants to secure a lot of those rounds, uses wrestling. He's got power too, right? I mean, he has a lot of early finishes as well. But I just think what Dan said, that he's kind of tailor-made for a wrestler. He's tall, he's long, he's got those devastating knees, that it might be a little bit hard for Chandler to close the distance. But is there that big of a reach advantage? I don't think so, right? I think it's not as big as people assume it is, just because of the size difference. But it's interesting. You know, it's actually a very intriguing stylistic matchup. But I think the fact that it's 3 rounds does favor Hooker a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. I think kind of the opposite. I think maybe the 3 rounds favors Michael Chandler a little bit, depending on his strategy. If he's able to use that wrestling and wear him down, I think there's potential that 10 minutes could zip off the clock, and he could have kind of a clinch-heavy, grappling-heavy attack, and maybe that's how he wins it done. Maybe it's not the most spectacular of victories or anything, but maybe he's able to win like a 29-28 decision or something like that. So I think I am going to pick Michael Chandler to win something in that fashion. What about you? Do you think he gets it done, or is it going to be Dan Hooker?
I am leaning Hooker just because of the sharpness of his striking and stuff like that. I totally understand where you're coming from with the grappling, because if he can control the fight, he could almost make it look easy. But I just think Dan isn't as easy to take down as people think. I mean, Dustin was able to get him down, but they were slugging it out for so long, and he was a little bit tired. So I think it'll be interesting to see if Michael Chandler can close the distance in terms of his striking and grappling, but I am going to lean towards Hooker. I think he does more damage in the fight.
I love it. Some parity in the analysis and the predictions here, Farah. This is what it's all about. So, yes, it goes down Saturday night for all you in the United States. Sunday morning here in Abu Dhabi. We'll have coverage on MMAJunkie.com. Farah's doing great stuff for UFC Arabia out here, so you're killing it all fight week. But as we get into fight night and beyond, make sure to keep it locked to the site and check for all kinds of updates.